have met her before. We've had this intimate conversation with her before. The beauty of this woman is that she is so accessible, despite how busy, despite her schedule, like Harbeen said. Really, we feel so blessed to have had this conversation on the listening end. Thank you. I think, do we have Bababeens with us? Perfect.
Mrinal Sharma and Sadhvi Ashwani, co-founders Bababeens. Are you with us, girls?
You know, Bababeens, they have their yummy coffee outlets just on the outside.
Two amazing co-founders have started this coffee company. We've had quite a few sessions on coffee today, Mansi.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. But if you want to know about Bababeens, if you go out into the lobby and turn a little left, so Bababeens has very graciously, generously hosted Bababeens coffee for all of you.
And it's very yummy.
So we are with amazing young co-founders of Bababeens. You know, when I first heard about your name, Bababeens, it really resonated with me. And I'll tell you why. So Baba, because I have a spiritual guru, and in Indian tradition, we lovingly refer to our guru or somebody elder as Baba. Okay, so my guru is called Baba. So for me, Baba is my life. So when I heard Baba, Bababeens, both the words, and bean, why? Because there's a bean in Harbeen. So there's like a bean in my name. So I really loved your name, and frankly, that was the reason I said yes to your coming and doing it. It's funny how we make decisions sometimes, right? Just that little resonance. So Sadhvi and Mrinal, we are so proud of you two young co-founders. Tell us a little about your journey. When did you start Bababeens, and why coffee? And what were you doing before that, and what made you just sort of start up?
Thank you so much, first of all, for having us here and giving us this opportunity and recognition on this platform. Like, we really, really appreciate it. And we're very happy to be here and serving coffee outside. And to begin with, like, I too just take it forward from where you left it. The story behind our name, actually, Bababeens, is because there was a Sufi saint by the name of Baba Budan in the 17th century who pilgrimed to Yemen, Mecca, and smuggled 7 green coffee beans, planted them in present-day Chikmagalur, Karnataka, and that's how we grow coffee in India. So our name essentially is an ode to Baba Budan. Like, thank you for bringing coffee to India. So, as for our journey,
yeah, so Sadhvi and I met in college, and 3 years we had unlimited conversation and debates about socio-political structures in a society. And I think that set the tone for our venture, Bababeens. We both went to Kurg in 2013, and we saw coffee in a new personality. We grew up on instant coffee, but when we saw the way the coffee is processed, the way it's grown, and the 40 hands behind the cup of coffee, is when we realized that there is no going back. And that, I think that basically started our journey of the venture.
Yeah, essentially, like, just understanding and discovering what Indian coffee is potential, the potential that Indian coffee has to deliver in the cup, the infinite flavors that you can discover with one particular coffee, it was insane. There was just no going back, like she said.
So my next question will be at the level of entrepreneurship. What were the challenges you faced at 2 levels? One is the societal level, you know, when you told you or revealed it to your friends and family that you were going to do this startup. What were the challenges on that front? And the other side, market challenges, you know, from the side of investors, or even just sort of, you know, engaging with the market generally. Did you face any particular challenges just by virtue of your gender?
I think I think challenges is like an undying part of an entrepreneurial journey. Like it starts with challenges, and we've accepted it as a part of like the next step. There is going to be a challenge, like Murphy's law. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. So essentially, when we started out, I think our parents also didn't take us very seriously. When we told them we want to start a coffee business, they were just like, okay, go for it, start it, like enjoy. And then like later when we said, okay, this is what we're sticking to, then they were a little apprehensive, but I think like we stuck out, we were perseverance, actually our perseverance sort of pulled us through, and so we're still in the business, and we have a cafe now. We're essentially a B2B brand, but now we source our coffees directly from planters and get them to the direct consumer in the interpretations and the flavors and the tones that we, in our own interpretation, carve out of the roasted profiles.
Yeah, so as she said, there are just different challenges at different levels. So at the marketing level, I think as we all have consumed instant coffee, the basic challenge was to educate the consumers about the brilliant crop that India grows, which was mostly getting exported outside. So it was very necessary that if our country grows one of the finest crops in the world, then we should be consuming it as well. So educating them about the consumption of the crop, educating them about the flavors, tones, and what is so different about our coffee was one of the biggest challenges that we faced and are still working on it.
Yeah, essentially, like when we went and we started out the business, it was very hidden child. We went straight to the planters, asking them about the soil, asking them about the flour that happens, the showering that happens. Eventually, they got sick of us because they thought we were young students, like doing nothing. So the challenges were, more so because we were young. And not so gender-based in the industry. Like, thankfully, like our farmers are very, very well educated in this industry. So that gives you like a very big push in terms of figuring out where you're going to add value in the supply chain.
My next question is about scalability and your plans for the future. So you mentioned you were essentially a B2B model, but it's I know you as a B2C model because we have our store of Bio Ayurveda right next to Bababeens in the Taj Ambassador Hotel in Khan Market. So we are retail neighbors as well. So I see that. Is that a model you're going to be growing? More B2C stores as well. And what are your plans for funding? And have you had any meetings with investors? And how's that journey going?
So absolutely, like we are looking to scale. We are looking to scale with like different kinds of experiences with different cafes that we come up with. They will be tied up with like culture. They will be tied up with books, with reading, everything that goes with coffee. So the idea is that coffee evolves with societies evolving. So it's like coffee sort of carries history along with it since the very beginning when we started consuming it. So the idea behind our retail outlets is going to be to create that ongoing cultural aspect, whereas like our bigger scaling plans have more to do with more sustainable practices in the backward integration of the business, to go towards figuring out sustainable practices for our farmers, for the farmers who we source from, for the crop to be available for the coming years, and how we're going to essentially ensure that we are giving back to the growers from whom we're actually taking such a beautifully cultivated product. So I think you can elaborate a little more on like how we're going to get into the commodities part of it.
Yeah, so as she mentioned about the one side of scalability is that having more experiences, and the other side is scalability, which is, as she said, the backward integration. When we talk about that, I mean, by the virtue of working with farmers closely, we got closer to the challenges. And their challenges are a part of our value chain by the end of the day. So back in 1960, when Green Revolution came to India, only the large farm holdings benefited from it. And small farm holdings are still surviving, still struggling to survive. And that's the story with coffee farmers as well today. So we look to adopt small farms, have sustainable practices at these small farm holdings, and even if they produce 100 kgs to 500 kgs, which is called a nano lot, we look to put them on a map, having specially curated experiences which are coming from these nano lots, from these small land holdings.
So essentially, like discovering these farms, capacitating them to actually nurture what they're naturally growing and find the right marketplace for their crop. And that's the platform that we look to create in the B2B part of the business. That's what we're actually looking for investors with open arms.
Yeah, and I think not just for coffee, when we talk about agriculture, we want to include other commodities as well, which grow around coffee and like coffee, like pepper, honey, fig, which are looking for a bigger platform to showcase what the charms and personalities they hold.
Thank you so much. I'm just, listening to you, it's just I'm feeling so good. I'm feeling so good that our young entrepreneurs are so broad in their vision and so inspired in their energy. One quick last question. When you were thinking about entrepreneurship, who were the role models you had in mind? Who were you thinking about? Like, was when you came to that choice, what was it in your head? What figures, faces, companies, what was in your head?
So like Mrinal said, so she was doing BCom honors, I was pursuing philosophy honors. So we're friends from college and we would have undying debates and conversations about philosophy, political philosophies, theories. So we would go in one night from Gandhi to Hitler. So I think it was that common thought process that actually created even the idea of doing getting into agriculture or getting into a startup in the agricultural space, given that we hail from an agrarian economy. That's the idea. The idea was to create a dent in the economy somehow. So this essentially is our own personal venture, which in our heads is on its way to create some sort of dent in the economy, considering there's a lot of potential for growth for coffee trade in India, even though there is a growing paradox over here where the growing nation is often not the consuming nation. That's the paradox we're working against. And that's what we're trying to change. We're trying to get to the Indian consumer, the beautiful crop that we actually grow here. So I think that is essentially...
Yeah, I mean, in short, I think it's not about the faces, but the school of thoughts that made our thought process or our basic core of entrepreneurship.
This is so different from anything I've heard about entrepreneurship so far, is that you were actually inspired by change makers, by visionaries, by tall leaders, by those grand men and women out there who have a vision for making a difference in the lives of everyone. I am so inspired by both of you, young leaders and entrepreneurs. Sadhvi and Mrinal, it's been a pleasure having you here with us. Thank you so much. A big round of applause, please, for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
You've kept us going with all that amazing coffee. Thank you for that. Mrinal and Sadhvi would like to now present you with the awards. First, I would like to invite Mrinal for Exceptional Woman of Excellence. A big round of applause for Mrinal.